Alrighty. Welcome to Broom Talk, the podcast where witches, healers, and magic makers gather to share their journeys, their magic, and their truths. I'm your host, Priestess Melissa of Enchanted Dragonfly, inviting you to take a seat at the broom circle because the real magic is in the stories we tell. So let's stir the cauldron and speak the spell. So I have another magical being with me today. So tell us your name and your business name.
Leo Ryan, and the name of the business is Leo Ryan Energy Healing.
Nice. And could you tell us a little bit about what you do?
So there's really three categories that I work in. One is yoga, teaching yoga. The second is sound healing. And the third is workshops.
Oh, nice. And you want to talk a little bit about what you do for the workshops?
Sure. There's a kind of a range of workshops. I have one coming up in northern Vermont at a place called Carmicholing. And the focus is sound healing as a wellness principle. And that's 3 days. December 12th, 13th, and 14th. And it's a movement, there's a movement element to it, and there's working with the instruments and then participating in sound baths.
Oh, awesome. Sounds great. And could you tell us where you're located?
I'm in Natick, Mass. Okay. And the work that I do is generally around Natick. I do a lot of work right in Natick, but there's work I do at different workshops in Massachusetts and New Hampshire and Vermont.
Oh, wonderful. And how did you start doing what you do?
Doing what I do? Well, it's kind of a long story, but I guess I've been an athlete my whole life, and there was a time that I used yoga as a way of kind of just protecting and healing my body in what would be an off season. And then I had a situation where I had a knee problem. And it stopped me from doing the things I love to do. Mm. And so as part of that healing of the knee, there was a surgery on there, and that was very slow. And I started using yoga to rehab the knee. Mm. And that also coincided with a deepening exploration of energy as a healing method and principle. So studied some shamanism with a group out of Kripalu, Ray Christ, the Jaguar Path. And in that Jaguar Path, it introduced me to some Incan healers.
That's awesome.
And I studied with some shamanic healers with that. And that led into an inquiry, a year-long study around shamanic principles of the Kiro people. Nice. And one of the teachers said, Leo, you really should be involved more in yoga. And I explained that I had just been using yoga as a kind of an off-season fitness kind of thing. So, there's a lot more to yoga than that. Mm. So I spent another year studying yoga. And when I came out of that course, I knew that I'd be very comfortable as a yoga teacher in front of the room.
That's awesome. You don't hear too much about Inca healing techniques, right? You hardly ever hear about that unless it's in a movie or something.
Oh, it's really fascinating stuff.
Sounds great.
And there's a number of folks there's a number of Incan folks, the Kiro people, centered in Cusco, Peru, that stepped forward in the 1940s as a way of introducing this centuries-old tradition into our kind of northern culture, connecting the condor with the eagle, so bridging those two cultures. And so that's very, very active about welcoming folks like myself. I was welcomed as a Pampa Masaic, so the lowest level, the first rung of a healer in that tradition.
That's awesome. What an experience that must have been.
It continues.
Yeah, absolutely. What type of practitioner are you?
Well, practitioner, the yoga is something that I do regularly. So I have 5 classes a week that I'm teaching now at 2 different locations. So as a practitioner, I want people to be, first of all, just comfortable walking into a yoga studio. Mm. There's a lot of folks that feel very intimidated about walking through the door. And I'll often say that the first time through the door takes courage. Mm. Because you don't know what you're walking into, what's your body going to do, who are the other people, what's the expectations of the instructor. So courage to come through the door. And then every time after that, it's all about discipline, right? So my practice is about welcoming folks in, making sure they're comfortable, finding a practice that works for them in the yogic practice. But then I've expanded that healing into things like sound healing. Mm. So I'm studying with the Academy of Sound Healing in the United Kingdom. And 2 areas we focus on. One is group settings. So there's a couple of locations, the town of West and the town of Natick, have me doing sound healings for them once or twice a month. And that's a very, very kind of low obligation, low bar to come in. You come into the room, you lay on a mat for 45 minutes or so,
Yeah.
right? And you're transported or not. And then there's, again, just kind of allowing inviting their curiosity and then caring for them in something that might be very, very strange to them. And then once folks have been through a sound healing experience, oftentimes I'll say, that's very easy. I felt so good. I slept really well. My sinuses cleared. They have an immediate reaction, and it's easy for them to come back. You know?
Yeah, nice. Once they see that it's working for them, and then they're comfortable getting through the doors.
Right.
Yeah,
well, you know, I'm sure you run into people that they're a little bit intimidated about the work that you're doing. And I'm a yoga teacher. I'm a shaman. I'm a sound healer, and I spent most of my life kind of as a technology-related salesperson in that very, very concrete area, raising children and all. And now in these areas where, for a lot of folks, it's foreign language. And very part of the way I present is a way that, listen, I'm kind of an ordinary guy who was curious, went down these rabbit holes, these explorations, and achieved some understanding and mastery in terms of explaining it. And then just invite people to come satisfy their own curiosity, come in, participate, and see if there's a place for you, if you feel comfortable in this.
Absolutely. Yeah, sometimes it just takes a little bit of encouragement for someone to just walk in through the door, and then your whole life could change, absolutely. Yeah. What's your spiritual origin story or an awakening moment?
There could probably be 20 of those. It's funny. Oftentimes when I talk about the energy work that I do, I start with Carlos Castaneda. Is that name familiar to you? Okay. So Carlos Castaneda was likely an anthropologist in Southern California in the 1950s and 60s. And I say likely because there's a part of the history that says it wasn't a real person. Castaneda wasn't a real person. But the story, the books that I read was about this professor who went down to the southwest of the United States, northern Mexico, and met up with Don Juan, who was a Mexican healer. And he introduced Castaneda to the idea of altered states of consciousness, that in fact people can see and experience the world in very, very different ways. And there's different energetic levels that are available. So that becomes part of my origin story. I was brought up in a very traditional Catholic home, educated with the Jesuits, and at the same time reading Carlos Castaneda. So that becomes part of a lifelong kind of curiosity to explore this altered states of consciousness through breath, and exercise, and conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. What's your daily spiritual or magical practice like?
I think that I would say that I really work at being present, right? And making that my magical special practice, and that every moment has an opportunity of real depth and connection and opportunity. And when I'm tuned in, I can experience those. I can see those things. I can have that. That requires a lot of work, right? So there's a lot of things that need to be done on a physical level. So caring for the cauldron, the container, right? So I do things to care for the container. I talk about rest, hydration, nutrition, and movement. There's all key elements of caring for the physical component. Right. And then there's that element about the mind. We have times in our lives when the mind is working a counter to us, pulling us into the past or pushing into the future. We've got regret and worry. And so we have meditation practices. I have meditation practice that's designed to pull me back into the center moment, letting go of the past and the future so that regret and the fear dissolve and I can be present in the present moment. And then the third piece I'll say is there's energy that moves within us, between us, and around us. And there's a lot of traditions that introduce us to tools that help to move that energy through us. So that's part of my daily practice of using some of those techniques of breath and tapping as a way of moving that energy. That's awesome.
Yeah, tapping I've heard a lot about lately. That keeps coming up past couple of months. You're talking about the EMF tapping. Is that what that is?
Well, in my yogic practice, there's a whole range of things I do, but I do a short tapping practice, and there's Qigong schools, Tai Chi schools, Chinese medicine tools that use tapping as a way of opening up the meridians, these rivers of energy. So
interesting. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Who or what inspires your path the most?
Who or what? Well, I have 3 kids, and they do serve as a real inspiration for me. They're all raised and out in the world and doing their thing, and they're very good at what they do, and so that's an inspiration for me. I see part of my obligation is to serve as role model, so that if community engagement or exercise or service are things that are important, then I put those in my life, and I watch my children do the same. I say, well, I've got to keep moving on because they're doing so well. And my wife, we've been together for more than 35 years.
That's awesome.
And she has a lot of tools. She's a bit of a potions witch herself.
Oh, that's awesome.
I don't know if she'd use that term, but it's certainly
awesome. It's important to not only inspire your family, but to be inspired by them too, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
What was the biggest challenge you faced on your journey, and how did you overcome it?
Well, I think that one of my roles, so this is kind of a masculine role, seeing myself as protector and provider. And I think those are very worthwhile and high meaning goals, protector and provider. But I think the provider element is a challenge because it forces us into the material world. And I think you have to be really careful about not getting consumed by that material world. Like, how much is enough? How far do you go? What sacrifices are made in that role of provider? So I would say that's probably been the biggest challenge. Like a lot of the things that we're talking about today were recognized as important to me as a pretty young person, 16, 17 years old.
Nice.
And I would say that was put on the back burner for a good 25 years while I made sure that I was providing for a family. And so wasn't ignored, didn't dissolve, didn't go away forever, but they certainly weren't explored the way that I can explore them now. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge and obstacle, that seeing myself in one light, but not allowing the other light to be part of my life.
Yeah. It's almost like it would like butt heads, so to speak, or in lack of a better term that I can think of right now. Yeah. What tools, methods, or spirits guide your work?
Well, the yoga is a wonderful tool, because when we think about yoga in a true Eastern tradition, where it's the linking of the physical body with the breath as we seek to still the mind, if we fully incorporate that understanding of yoga, it's a very, very powerful tool, because it forces us into our body. And I feel like we have a responsibility for care for this vessel, right? So the physical movement and that, but then don't shortchange the yogic elements, which says, like, tune into the breath. It's that's the best resource we have to shifting emotions and controlling and healing the nervous system. And then ultimately, creating that mind, so that we create a mind of abundance, so that we can be of service. So that's a tool I use regularly, that yogic practice, full sense. But also, in terms of gathering tools, the shamanic tools are that have been given to me by the Keros. There's 3 kind of categories of the tools. The first is the understanding of clearing, and that we have energy areas of the body that get blocked over time because of trauma, basically because of trauma. And so there's shamanic rituals that are designed to clear up those centers, whether they're chakras or whatever, and vortex, whatever language you want to use on that. So the clearing. The second is the idea of balancing. We all have energetic links, typically to a person or a place or a definition of self that no longer serves, right? And so there's an opportunity through these shamanic practices to sever that energetic link so that we can be free, so our energy can be symmetrical and expanding, right? So we clear, we balance, and the third that we're introduced to is this kind of exploration, and some of the shamanic journeying tools where we go into a meditative state. And then we're invited to visit with a power animal, or look at old contracts, things that we say or we think we understand about ourselves, and then rewrite the contracts. So those clearing, balancing, and exploring kind of tools are something that I lean into.
Nice. And it's interesting that you mentioned contracts too. I've heard that a lot lately too. Keeps coming up where we have these like subconscious contracts or soul contracts or what have we. And but on a day-to-day conscious level, hardly anybody is like thinking about it unless you are really aware of what is happening. Right. It's
well, that is
fascinating.
so. And these meditative programs, when you put the right person, and I've learned this over time, is that make sure that people have the clearing done, make sure that the balancing is done, make sure that they're in a good state. And then if they're invited into that meditative state and they open up to that contract, it can be a very, very powerful experience. And oftentimes it's things that the contract is built off of something that was very, very minor, a dropped ice cream at 6 years old, or a dog that interacted with you at 8 years old. Very, very young, very, very minor. But it launches a contract into self that says, I'm not worthy of that ice cream or anything else because I dropped it.
Yeah.
Right? And you carry that forward, and people start to see that. I can see that in their whole life. They're self-sabotaging for carrying an old contract.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's fascinating how that you would carry something like that, or something somebody said, and it stays with you for like ever if you don't address it.
And I think it comes back to like us being careful with the words that we use around people, right? Because we don't know the state that they're in and how they're going to carry that.
Yeah, absolutely, very true. How do you stay energetically protected and grounded?
And I was thinking about surrounding myself with people that support my energetic state. Right. So we all know situations where we can feel this energy walk into the room. Somebody's off balance, or they're angry, or they're the victim. You can feel this energy walk in. And we have to be really careful to not absorb that energy. Right? Yeah. And then the same side, when you're around somebody who lives in lives of service, carries humor with them, they lift that energy. We feel that sense of self. So in answer to your question, my goal is to surround myself with a community that lifts energetically.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. Yeah, because I mean, even like if you go into a store or somewhere and it's just a stressful vibe or what have you, like like Black Friday, for example, like don't go out there,
Yeah, no, it's so true. Sometimes we're forced into those situations, whether it's a workplace with an obligation or family with an obligation. But then there's that's when you got to be really active at making sure that yourself walks in a way that you can be authentic and not compromised in that energy. It's hard work.
Yeah, absolutely. What's one common misconception about your craft or your work?
Well, we were talking a little bit earlier. I think that languaging is challenging. So, to introduce myself as a shaman is it's not something you see in Metro West Boston.
Yeah,
right. It's funny. One of my teachers talked about how 15, 20 years ago when he got into this, and he would say he was a shaman trained by the Kiros, people would say, well, I've got to go check on I got to go get a drink, and they'd walk away from him.
Oh, yeah.
But then of late, last 5 years or so, he says that people lean in because there's a familiarity with it. So I think that, I think one of the things that I try to be careful with the words that I use and use less of them. Like allow people to kind of share where they're at, and if there's an opportunity for me to introduce the things I'm working on, then I do that. But being very, very careful, and sometimes I'm not all that good about that because I get excited about the work I'm doing, and that might be a turnoff for people because it doesn't fit. The languaging is wrong. So that's kind of probably the most challenging thing for me. It's like understanding when I should be listening more than speaking.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, absolutely. Because sometimes people just want to be heard or what have you, or like you're saying, if you say something, they take it the wrong way or in a way that's like they don't understand. Yeah.
But that's a really interesting point that they want to be heard, not listened to. So when the sound healing work that I do group settings, I do individuals. And there's this dynamic where when somebody walks in for a sound healing session, individual, oftentimes they're carrying emotion with them as they come through the door. And part of our job as healers is to make someone feel comfortable, because the healing comes in the safety. If they feel safe, then they can heal. If they don't feel safe, there's no healing.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a welcoming, there's a greeting, there's a conversant part. But as the healer, there's a moment where the conversation has to shift from kind of the ordinary and maybe the anxiety and all the words and energy around whatever's driving it. It shifts from that to, we're going to do a healing practice. Maybe it's breath work, maybe it's sound work, maybe it's movement. But it's not the work I do. It's not talking. There are places for all those words.
Yeah.
But my practices are not focused on all those words. I'm not trained as a counselor.
Right.
Right. So I'm really, trained as a vehicle for the tools to do the work. And then the person coming in, they're the ones that actually, they're the ones that bring the healing. I just help to create the space. With good intentions, I offer the tool. And then if there's healing that's placed, well, the person can thank themselves for being willing to go for that transformation.
Well, absolutely. And it's funny how you can give someone all the energy that they would want or need, but they have to be open to receiving it. Also help work on themselves a little bit. Otherwise, it's not going to do anything.
No,
and they'll just be right back where they started.
Very true.
Can you share a powerful or a memorable client transformation?
The sound healing one is one that I get regular feedback on. One was really kind of amazing, where a woman was dealing with this tachycardia, this heart arrhythmia issue, and her family had insisted that she start wearing a heart monitor. So she had like an Apple Watch or something like that. Yeah. And so she walked into a group sound healing setting. There's 15 or so people seated, laying down in a circle, and she shows me on her phone the state of her heart, and it's in the red zone, whatever the red zone meant. So elevated heart rate. So we do an hour-long session, and she gets up from the mat and she brings the phone up to me and she shows me that the heart rate has returned right down to a nice stable state. Nice. So that was really, really nice to see that physical representation and in very, very clear, objective, data-driven results. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. To see it in that physical form like that, and kind of backed up by a digital platform. Right. Well, now it's one of my things is trying to gather more information about that, because we talk about this. There's plenty of anecdotes, but man, I'd love to be part of a group that was gathering information so we can start stepping this forward. Like this is truly valuable to people's health. Yeah, absolutely. And before it was like part of the unseen, but now even with auras you can capture in photography, which is fascinating. Yeah. Right? Well, and sound is an area where the East and West is being linked. I mean, we see it, ultrasound as a way of diagnosing tissue and developing baby. That's very, very well accepted. And now there's a technology that's newer in the United States about dissolving kidney stones without any invasive treatments. Right, so we're essentially doing vibration to break up the kidney stones, and it's an example of kind of the same principles of sound healing being applied in Western science. It's fascinating. Very exciting. Yeah, it's fascinating. I love it. What sacred self-care practices keep you aligned? I guess there's a lot. I'm really fortunate in that there's different communities that I can lean into for support. I just want to mention like the Bill Plotkin and the Animas Valley group out of Durango, Colorado. They got some wonderful languaging around transformation and periodic workshops. Karma Choling is a Buddhist retreat center in northern Vermont, 600 acres, gorgeous, and very intentional meditative space. So it's cultivating community of practitioners and knowing the places where I can go to and recharge. That's really important. Yeah, absolutely. And what does success look like to you as a spiritual business owner? Well, I'd like to be of service, and so that is part of the objective. And I'm kind of in a transition piece. I guess we're all in transition constantly, but I'm stepping more and more forward as an energy healer and less as a kind of a business person. Oh, yeah. So success is continued involvement to the town work I'm doing. I've got one town that's engaged in my services. I got another town that's sample them. So I like that piece. And then the workshops are really I love those because there's a chance of meeting with kind of a leadership group, get an idea what they think their community wants. And share my skills around movement, shamanic ceremony, sound, and then packaging something together. And that's really rewarding. So I'd like to see an expansion of the workshops.
Nice. Yeah, awesome. Do you follow the moon, astrology, or seasonal cycles in your work?
A little. I have an abundance practice I do the first of every month. I've been doing that for years now. Nice. A little cinnamon blown into the household. Yeah. So, no, beyond that, aware of, but not a deep practitioner. What's interesting is that, and I've watched some of your other podcasts.
Thank you.
Tarot is something I've been exposed to and I don't have an affinity for. So I've been in, but it's just not me. So animal cards is something I have an affinity for. And on Mondays, my yoga practice is as an intuition-focused energy practice, a yogic practice. And then at the conclusion, as we're coming out of Shavasana, each of the participants is given an animal card.
Oh, nice.
Right? And so we spend a little bit of time at the conclusion of class just talking about the card. Did that resonate? And so I use the cards for myself. Sometimes I'll ask them, what do I need to know today? And the animal cards are a way of guiding that.
Animals, powerful totems. Absolutely.
Very much so.
Yeah. That's awesome. What's something you wish more people knew about energy work, divination, rituals, what have you?
Well, I think the accessibility.
Yeah.
That it's you can use words like woo. You can use that word, but it's the notion of ritual. The ritual, ritual as a way of stopping time. This is so important. We carve out time. We put the phone away. We stop time, and then we transform through a ritual. So something was one way before and then after, and that, one way can be, welcoming a new member into community. It can be joining people together. It can be wishings, allowing a soul to move to the next level. That can be the ritual. But I think, I wish people would recognize the value of ritual and their own ability to create ritual in nothing. A small handful of cinnamon to open up a new month and welcome abundance. Yeah. Can be really powerful for a person if they have the right intentions. They step forward in reverence and gratitude. That can have a real significant impact on their life.
Absolutely. If you could give one piece of advice to someone just starting their path, what would it be?
Well, I love the word curiosity. and I do think that we're constantly provided with messages about who we are and where we're to step, where we're to explore. I think that it's happening constantly. And I think that when we're vibrating on a level to receive that, the messages are clear. When we're not, when we're clouded or obscured, we don't see that. Or worse, we ignore it. Yeah. And so I guess my invitation to folks is like, when that curiosity stirs, I invite you to explore it.
Yeah, absolutely. What magic are you currently brewing in regards to events you're doing, classes you're doing, what have you?
Well, pretty active sound healing sessions. So I've got 2 a month that I do in Natick. In December, I start in the town of Weston. So on the town websites, they have information about those sessions offered during the day and the evening. And then really exciting in December 12th, 13th, and 14th up at Carmicholing, myself and Nicole Ward, who's a very powerful sound healer, are going to do a 3-day workshop on sound and movement. And love to have people join us at that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Nice. And now I have some fun questions for you. So what is your sun, moon, and rising? If you know, we just talked about, do you remember what they were?
No, well, I'm a Pisces, right? And I have a lot of Sagittarius.
Yes, both your, he had a chart and showed me, so that's how I know, but his moon and rising is both Sagittarius. It's awesome.
I don't know what that means, but
yeah, no, that's my rising is also Sagittarius. That's nice. Do you have a favorite crystal, herb, or tool that you work with?
In the sound world, I have a flute that I bought on the steps in Cusco from a Caro elder that I close every yogic practice with.
Nice.
And people love it. And it's really beautiful because done right, it really transports people.
Oh, I bet.
So that's a very powerful piece that I use nearly every day.
Nice. Awesome. Do you have a magical nickname or an archetype that you resonate with?
But the nickname that has come up that I've used a couple of times is Coach. Right? So I played a lot of basketball and I coached for a while, and when I've been in different circles and people suggest the name, I'll often say Coach. And that's a role that I really enjoy. I'm also I'm guided by a big bear, and he shows up regularly.
Aww.
And it's like having this massive older brother that thinks it's very funny to kind of push me in directions where I'm uncomfortable. So the bear is still around.
It's time for you to pay attention to that, whether you like it or not.
And there's no going back.
No. Tea or tincture?
I say tea.
Mm-hmm. Tarot or runes?
I'd say tarot, but it's the cards. I think the cards we all if you've had experience around cards, there's some card decks that resonate, even if it's in the tarot tradition or it's the animal cards tradition.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't resonate so much with the tarot. I have a wonderful set of Druidic tarot cards. I have an Irish lineage, so I kind of went through the Druids, but I don't resonate all that well with it.
Yeah.
But the animal cards, I do have had great success with that.
Nice. Cauldron or candle?
I say candle.
Mm-hmm.
Although, having said that, I just wonder the imagery I used about, a cauldron is a vessel capable of great transformations.
Yeah.
But only if it's in good shape and balanced.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I use this imagery in some of the work that I do. I talk about there's three legs on this cauldron to make that ourselves, us capable of great transformations. We have to have that physical leg, rest, hydration, nutrition, and movement. We protect that.
True. Yeah.
Create that mind that's an ally and we're not a victim to that mind. And then the third piece are energy principles. So when we have those three legs balanced, our cauldron can be strong and stable.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true. If your spirit guide had a voice, what would it sound like?
I think it'd be masculine. I think it would be this older brother kind of, and it would be decisive.
That's awesome. And do you have any pets?
Well, it's what a wonderful story. We've had two wonderful dogs in our life, and we had Bailey, who helped to raise the kids. A small little guy, lived 15 years, and he left us about 2 years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And then my son had a Vizsla about 7 years ago.
What is a Vizsla?
Yeah, it's a Hungarian bird hunting dog.
Okay.
It's very, very beautiful, athletic, short-haired, strong, about 65 pounds. And so Jackson was shared kind of with us and Luke. And Luke is in the service, so he had a chunk of his life where he couldn't have the dog with him. And so the end of the story is this: Luke had just taken Jackson back, and Jackson had this aggressive cancer.
Oh.
So we lost Jackson last Friday.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Very, very sad.
Yeah.
But it was just what an amazing gift. So we've had Jackson is still around us because he's doing all kinds of tricks around the house, locking doors, eating food on counters.
Yeah.
So we appreciate he was a wonderful gift to us in that 7 years.
And they really do like hang around. Like I had a greyhound and he got sick. We had to put him to sleep and he left and I swear for a week after I would still hear his claws on the floor after, right? He was still hanging around.
Yeah. No, they're special. They really are.
Yeah. So that was all the questions I had for you. Was there anything else you would like to talk about?
No, I think that the work that you're doing is wonderful work.
Thank you.
I'm glad you have this space and getting this languaging out, and I really appreciate the invitation.
Absolutely. My pleasure having you. Thank you for joining me. And I'm going to put a description for them to find you in here. Do you have a website or a Facebook page?
I do. I have a website. It's Energy Matters with an S, the number 2 and the letter U.
Okay.
So energymatters2you.com.
Awesome. So I will put that website link in the description to find him, and go check out his workshops, his yogas, and just anything else that he may be able to help you with. And as always, come check us out. We are Enchanted Dragonfly in a metaphysical shop in Whitensville, Massachusetts. And as always, give this episode a like, share with your friends, follow our podcast channel, help us grow, and have a good night. Let's be, guys. Bye.